Good evening, I'm Stephen Cummings, and welcome again to another edition of the Citizens Community Forum. Our objective is always to have an engaging, interactive, and a civil discourse, and in so doing, help develop a culture of peace and understanding through constructive dialogue and, yes, citizens' participation. Our guests are persons who express views, opinions, and perspectives. Good evening, I'm Stephen Cummings, and welcome again to another edition of the Citizens Community Forum. Our objective is always to have an engaging, interactive, and a civil discourse, and in so doing, help develop a culture of peace and understanding through constructive dialogue and, yes, citizens' participation. Our guests are persons who express views, opinions, and perspectives of their own, and sometimes may not necessarily be that of the FBN network, the Citizens Community Forum, or that of the host. Our topics are also wide-ranging. Discussions at times may be heated and or emotionally charged, but surely we can always find common ground and learn from each other, irrespective of our differing views. Now, within the last few years, Trinidad and Tobago has been in election mode. Whether it be a general election, local THA, or by-election, have all been in sharp focus and have shaped and been part of the national conversation. Trinidad and Tobago, over the several decades, has also been dominated largely by a two-party political system, the People's National Movement, the PNM, and the United National Congress, the UNC, being the two largest political parties. Now, the PNM has governed Trinidad and Tobago from 1956 to 1986, 1991 to 1995, and 2001 to 2010, and currently serves as the ruling incumbent administration. Now, the United National Congress, the UNC, governed from 1995 to 2001 and from 2010 to 2015, and again is seeking yet another population mandate. But, so there's been a general, election mode here in Trinidad and Tobago. And if we look at 2015, then on August 10th, 2020, a by-election in Trinidad in 5 electoral districts, while in Tobago we saw 2 elections being contested between the People's National Movement, the PNM, the Tobago arm, and the Progressive Democratic Patriots, the PDP. On January 25th, 2021, the Tobago House of Assembly, THA, had its election, and another election for the THA on December 6, 2021, breaking a 6-6 tie election on the island. Now, come 2022, the race again is on among, this time, 3 political parties. We have political parties in Trinidad for the Penal, Debe South, a local government electoral district. By-election date for Debe South, February 7th. Now, the candidates are the UNC's Camarade Sunil Sicharan, PNM's Judy Sukhdev, and the PP's Lorenzo Rodney Sampson. And on the Citizens Community Forum this evening, we will be speaking with all these candidates at various times throughout the season. And of course, our topic this evening, by-election focus on Debe South, and a seat that became vacant on the death of local government councillor Mr. Purushottam Singh on February 14th, 2021. Now, let me let me at this time welcome Ms. Judy Sukdev of the People's National Movement. Ms. Sukdev, welcome to the Citizens Community Forum.
Thank you very much for having me here. Good night, you in public.
Thank you for joining us, Ms. Sukdev. I know that probably since the nomination, you have been engaged in some walkabouts and getting a feel of the ground. Are you? Okay, let's just make sure that we have your audio. Just make sure that we have your audio correct. We were asking you that since your filing of the nomination, your nomination, you have been getting a feel from the ground.
But we have been very busy with the campaign. We have been busy with a lot of things, interviews and stuff like that.
All right. Well, I'm sure we're gonna get into some detailed discussion as we go along in the program. Mr. Sukdev, firstly, let me ask, what was the screening like for you? The screening process like for you?
The screening process was like any other screening process. It was very rigorous. I'm not authorized to really talk about that right now, but it was rigorous.
It was okay, rigorous. All right, we leave that there for now. I suppose we can always come back to that at another time. But certainly, Ms. Sukdev, you are no stranger to the politics. You have been here before, having been a candidate in 2019 for the La Fortune seat. What attracted you or brought you into the politics?
I've always had a passion for helping people and doing community work. And that was the genuine factors in me joining politics.
All right. As I said, it's not your first time, but the last time I checked, with some, let's say, 3 health centers, 3 police stations, 1 fire substation, 36 registered recreation grounds. What are some of the front burner issues, and what are going to be your immediate priorities in terms of infrastructural development should you emerge winner come February 7th?
One of the issues are that of as a representative, I live in this area, I commute in this area, I recreate in this area. As a representative, so I intend to engage the arms of the relevant state enterprises, mainly the PDRC, because some of these issues falls within the jurisdiction of the Penal Debe Regional Corporation. The roads which are within their purview, I intend to ensure that they pay attention to these roads and these roads are maintained. The waterways are the same way. I think that the PDRC can do a lot more with regards to drainage, because these are one of the major issues that cause flooding and where we can help alleviate some of the flooding in this area. Another issue would be the management of infrastructure development. Like, let's say someone would ask, well, why managing infrastructure development? Sometimes you have when people doing developments, they tend to build and block the water courses. So now this is where the managing of the infrastructure development will come into play here. We also have the littering, or where you will say where people throw appliances in the river courses and blocks or the drains, and these blocks the flow of water. So this is just 2 things I plan to do with regards to infrastructure and flooding. We have the other issue with social issues.
Yes.
For the past 2 years, with the impact of the COVID-19, we have seen that a lot of people have been affected on the economically and human impact of that. Vulnerable people have become more vulnerable and work with state enterprises, they're like state agencies and non-profit organization, and helping these people to in whatever way that we can another issue would be the community development.
Yes.
That's another major issue. In the Debe South area, we have a very strong community spirit.
Yes.
I am willing to work with the religious groups, the, the cultural groups. I intend to to leverage the arms of the other state enterprises too and the non-profit organizations in assisting these young people, single parents, you know,
Okay.
even the single fathers in these communities to state where they can.
All right. So there are many social issues that you've mentioned there,
Yeah.
and you're looking at, as I said, some of those front burner issues. Because Ms. Sukdev, when we look at the National Human Development Index, giving people the choice to enjoy a long and healthy life, being educated, having access to resources that enable one, to live in dignity and being able to participate in decisions that affect, I suppose, one's community, are said to be, core capacities and for human development. And I was going to ask you as well that, I mean, how do you measure the current level of human development in Penal, Debe South?
How do you measure the level of human development? You measure that by the programs. You wouldn't measure that really, but what would impact on that is that their ability to take advantage of, like, in development, the programs that are available, like, let's say, the home improvement incentives,
Hmm.
the incentive for single mothers. And now we have where the Ministry of Health has introduced programs for young farmers in the forms of grants and land availability so that they can have developed them. We will also look at the GATE program that a lot of young people and even adults are taking advantage of. And those are some of the things that you measure human impact or human development. And I would say in Davis South,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
in Davis South, a lot of people have taken advantage of the GATE programs and the grant, the home improvement grant. I am a fine example of someone who has taken advantage of the GATE program. Coming from that background, I have a master's degree, and I would say the GATE program worked very well for me
All right. So
in
you're
that
one of
area.
right. So you're one of the beneficiaries of the programs, plans and programs that have been implemented and you believe have been working.
Yes,
All right. I think we may be having a little lag
I do. I
in.
strongly believe that it is.
Yes, we may be having a little lag with the audio based on the technology, but I hope that you can hear us. When we also, Ms. Sukdev, talk about election, there's always this issue about safe seats. Considering the electoral and political history of Debe South, do you see Debe South as a safe seat? When it comes to your opponents, political opponents, and we're talking about your major competitor, the United National Congress.
I fancy the PNM's chance is as good as any. The PNM has always fielded their candidates and have always provided quality candidates, quality representation in every election, in every electoral district since 1956. I intend to represent the people of Davis South. I intend to meet with the people and have conversations with them and outline my plans for development in Davis South. And at the end of the day, the people have their, those people are free to vote for who they want.
All right, and this is the Citizens Community Forum. We are discussing by-election for Debe South. That's on February 7th, and I have with me Miss Judy Sukdev, the representative for the People's National Movement for the Penal Debe South electoral district. Ms. Sukdev, 2020, August 10th, we had a general election which saw the People's National Movement getting a second mandate with a 22 out of 41 seat, and as against the opposition United National Congress, 19 out of 41 at the polls. Now, that moved us into the 12th Trinidad and Tobago Republican Parliament. It was the 14th election since gaining independence from the United Kingdom in 1962, and the 22nd national election in Trinidad and Tobago. How would you describe your party's performance from August 10th to now? The last local government, the last local area, and when we look at the elections that we've had, local government elections, THA, to now, how would you describe your party's performance?
That's not a question that I think that I should answer. I think that a question should be posed to somebody else the relevant ministry who are better equipped to answer that question. But what I can tell you is that my plans is to concentrate on the local government election, by election, that is, which is now. We plan to represent the people, give them the best representation to increase our chance of winning the seats.
All right. Now, when we talk about infrastructural development and social programs, Ms. Sugdeo, you did mention some of those front burner issues, but my understanding is that the Penal Debe electoral district, has a history in terms of, when we look at agriculture, there's been now a thriving, business sector. What plans do you have for, apart from the flooding which you've mentioned, what plans do you have for maybe agriculture, which seems to be in focus now again, and to be able to look at maybe small business development?
With regards to agriculture, there are a lot. I would be encouraging the young people in the area, even farmers, to take advantage of the programs and the incentives that are being offered to them. And one of them would be the availability of land to do agriculture, the availability of incentive that is now available to young people in the community. And I think those things is something that would create employment for the young people in the area, and even the older people, even the older adults in the community. With regards to small business, there are plenty of programs that these small business can benefit from. Can benefit from, and all those things will be in our plans for development of the Debe South area.
All right. And we are talking with Ms. Judy Sugdeo, the representative for the People's National Movement for Penal Debe South electoral district. And of course, we are all eagerly awaiting, I suppose, the 7th of February. And we have, as I indicated at the start, that we do have 3 political parties that are vying for that particular seat there. Ms. Sugdeo, if there is one message that you would want to leave for your constituents, as we almost, towards the end of the interview, what would that single message be to your constituents?
I will say to them, let us develop our constituency. Let us take the Penal Debe Regional Corporation to task. Let us seek to get what has been allocated for the Debe South residents, which means roads, which means cleaning of drains, and whatever else it is that has been allocated to the Debe South resident. Let us put the Penal Debe Regional Corporation to task. Let us ensure that they do what they are supposed to do for the residents of this area. Let us ensure that the other arms of the Penal Debe Regional Corporation comes on board, like let's say the litter wardens, the people who approve the structures. Let us ensure that all these things are being done, because there are laws right now. There are, you know, you go in areas and say in this constituency, and you see where buildings are being constructed, and the waterways are being blocked, right? And these are some of the contributors for flooding. So I will say to the people, let us take the Penal Debe Regional Corporation to task, and let us ensure that all the arms of the regional corporation are fully functional to the residents of the Penal Debe Regional Corporation. And I would also like to say to the people, if I am selected, not only would I be liaising and ensuring that the Penal Debe Regional Corporation does what they need to do, but I will be looking and aiming to get the other regional corporations that within the area, to have them to work with the same goals that we have, like let's say in terms of
Yes.
infrastructure, because and one example would be, higher up the road, we might be cleaning the drains, but lower down the road where we are, there may be a blockage, and that may be, and it would make sense to clean up the road when down the road here there's a problem that there's an issue that causing the problem. So I would say I will liaise with all these other institutions, these other arms, these other agencies, and ensure that we work together to ensure that the plans I have for the Debe South is realized, and that the people of Debe South get the proper representation and get what is due to the development of the Debe South.
All right. All right, Ms. Judy Sukhdeo. Ms. Sukhdeo, thank you so much for talking with us on the Citizens Community Forum, and we wish you all the best on February 7th.
Thank you very much for having me, and I would like to say thank you very much to the People's National Movement for selecting me as a candidate to represent the residents of Debe South.
Yes, Ms. Judy Sukhdeo there, the representative for the People's National Movement for the Debe South, Penal Debe South electoral district in the by-election for February 7th, 2022. Well, as I indicated, we will be speaking with all of the candidates. We have two more representatives who we will be speaking with as well, so that they can all come and share their perspectives, their vision, their hopes, their dreams, maybe some of the challenges that they have for that electoral district of Penal Debe South. Well, at this time, I'm Stephen Cummings. We will take a short break now, and we come right back.
Prime Minister, good evening to you, and welcome to the Citizens Community Forum.
Good evening, my brother, and for your viewers, listeners. Happy to be here with you.
Mr. Cummings, I think you should not have to be proud of this city and oversight.
Mr. Cummings, you were asking about our operational, you were asking about it from an operational standpoint.
First of all, good evening, Stephen. Thank you very much for having me on your program. A very good evening to all of your listeners.
Every Wednesday, join our 1-hour current affairs program, the Citizens Community Forum. Topics are wide-ranging and echoes opinions and voices of our society. Whether it be leadership, governance, health, crime, politics, or social issues, we can all have a civil and constructive discussion inside the Citizens Community Forum every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. on Isaac 98.1 FM with Stephen Cummings.
Last weekend I heard that there were 16 children sleeping in the cell in a police station. That was something that was unacceptable to me.
The current constitution of the Public Services Association, there have been concerns about how the constitution...
If you are restructuring the PSC, the only way you can restructure the PSC is through constitutional reform.
If the minister does not accede to our request and revalidate this license, we'll have to be heading to court.
Every Wednesday, 8 to 9 p.m., the Citizens Community Forum. Your host, Stephen Cummings. Be part of the Citizens Community Forum, a place where we bring to light and discuss critical community, social and national issues, discussions on health, leadership, governance, crime, education and social justice.
We might shift from focusing on whole language approaches to focusing on developing phonemic awareness. So we're just teaching phonics. and then the role of comprehension, the vocabulary development, making sure students can visualize when they read. We're not addressing those needs. So you're right.
And as a matter of fact, I don't know, Stephen, if you know this, but there are some places in the States where the legal drinking age is 21 and not 18. Even though there are persons advocating for our age of consent to be dropped back to 16.
You are dealing with developmental stages of learning. Should it start at the primary, secondary? Where should it start?
Very, very good question.
So there are studies that are being done. The thing about it, Mr. Cummings, let's be honest, how many people really sit and read those studies, or even, I mean, lots of things are coming in different forms. A lot of the data, a lot of the research is coming in video forms and so on. In our own society, how has research been articulated on this pandemic?
Every Wednesday, 8 to 9 p.m., the Citizens Community Forum. Your host, Stephen Cummings.
Good evening, I'm Stephen Cummings and welcome again to the Citizens Community Forum, yet another edition. Our objective is always to have an engaging, interactive and civil discourse, and in so doing help develop a culture of peace and understanding through constructive dialogue and, yes, citizens' participation. Our guests are persons who express views, opinions and perspectives of their own, and sometimes may not necessarily be that of the FBN network, the Citizens Community Forum, or that of the host. Our topics are also wide-ranging. Discussions at times may be heated and or emotionally charged, but surely we can always find common ground and learn from each other irrespective of our differing views. Now, within the last few years, Trinidad and Tobago has been in election mode. Whether it be a general election, local THA or by-election, have all been in sharp focus and have shaped the national conversation. Trinidad and Tobago over the several decades as well has been dominated largely by a two-party political system. The People's National Movement, the PNM, and the United National Congress, the UNC, being the two largest political parties in the country. Now, the PNM has governed Trinidad and Tobago from 1956 to 1986, 1991 to 1995, and 2001 to 2010, and currently serves as the ruling incumbent administration. Now, the United National Congress, the UNC, governed from 1995 to 2001, and from 2010 to 2015, and again is seeking yet another population mandate. So there was a general election as well in 2015. Then on August 10th, 2020, a by-election in Trinidad in 5 electoral areas, while in Tobago we saw 2 elections being contested between the People's National Movement, the PNM Tobago arm, and the Progressive Democratic Patriots, the PDP. And on January 25th, 2021, the Tobago House of Assembly, the THA, had its election, and another election for the THA on December 6, 2021, breaking a 6-6 election tie on the island. Now, come 2022, the race again is on, this time among 3 political parties for the Debe Penal South electoral district. And, you know, when we talk about local government election, by-election date for Debe South, February 7th. Now, the candidates are the UNC's Camarade Sunil Sitaran, the PNM's Judy Sukdev, and the PP's Lorenzo Rodney Sami. On the Citizens Community Forum this evening, we are speaking with one of the candidates for the February 7th, and of course our topic this evening, by-election focus on Debe South. And that's a seat that became vacant on the death of local government councillor Mr. Purushottam Singh on February 14th, 2021. But let me welcome to the Citizens Community Forum this evening Mr. Camarade Sunil Sitaran of the United National Congress. Mr. Sitaran, welcome to the Citizens Community Forum.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're welcome. We want to give you a special welcome, this being your first time on the Citizens Community Forum. Now, I know that you have been doing quite a bit of, walkabout, and I'm going to try to get, from you what you're sensing on the ground. But before that, before this whole process, began, you obviously, as in every, political party, I suppose, you would have had to have gone through a screening process. Just briefly, how was that screening process like? And intimidating? Were you fearful? there may have been some hard questions that I suppose, you know, that came your way.
Yes, there were some tough questions when it came to decisions and choices that you would have to make. However, it was an easy choice for me in terms of putting myself up to be free by the party. I think the party, I'm going to use the word enjoyed here very loosely. They said that, well, they claim to be impressed by what I would have brought to the table, and they were happy by the decision that they made to make me the candidate.
All right, wonderful. Now, I have to ask you, Mr. Citroen, you know, what attracted you into the politics? What brought you, you know, into the arms of the United National Congress, a party, you know, which has a really rich history? I mean, when we go back in many years, what brought you into the politics?
I've always loved politics. I always enjoyed the idea of politics and, you know, being a part of elections and the whole hype of it. But at this time around, it was a much different decision. I've been doing a lot of community work over the past maybe 10 years or so, specifically the Penal Debe region.
Yes.
The Debe South district, which I was born and grown in, has always been severely affected by flooding. Since the storm Brett in 2017, we would have had flooding in the area for every year since then. The work that we would have done, I'm saying we as myself and different persons within the community, well, let me introduce one time that I was the founding chairman of the Penal Debe Foundation. And through that group, we would have done quite a bit of work within the area, the districts, within the Penal Debe region.
Right.
Having done those work, one for the flooding situation, and then for the COVID lockdowns and, you know, the effects that would have brought, I saw a need that there was so much people suffering in the area of Debe South, and people who really deserve better. They deserve so much more than to be in a position where they felt neglected. The work that I would have done, we sought help from many different NGOs, many different community groups, state partnerships, private sector partnerships, you know, just to really reach out to persons who would have done work for flooding situations, you know, bringing just meals for persons who are underwater, cleaning supplies, food packages. We would have done outreach works for the COVID lockdown. Since that would have started, you know, a lot of persons would have been laid off of food support. We had a mass mask drive, doing sewing of cloth masks and then distributing, you know, viral masks as we would have been able to gather to persons who, you know, we have a lot of vulnerable persons within the area, persons who they try, but situations probably have the better of them. You know, they try to work where they can, and of course with COVID, a lot of persons with odd jobs, people who you know, do little construction work or you know, little odd work, even taxi, all of it came to a grinding halt. So, you know, being who I am, you know, always willing to lend a helping hand, I thought this was a good opportunity for me to now bridge that gap from local government, you know, to getting resources to the people.
Right, because I was going to ask you even before your filing and you know, getting involved at this level, you may have already been in the politics, having regard to what you've been doing for so many years.
Can you just repeat that? Sorry.
Yes, I'm saying that even before your filing and of your nomination and getting involved at this level, you may have already been involved in the politics based on what you've been doing over the years.
Of course, I've been a member of the UNC party, I believe, since I was about 16 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yes, before you know, the legal age. I've been a part of the constituency groups, the National Youth. I served in some of the executives, constituency executives, and so on. So I've been a part of the party. I came from a strong line of family that have been UNC members. So UNC for me was an easy choice. Was something that I didn't just born into, but something that I agreed with.
Okay.
The people of the Penal Debe region would have benefited so much between 2010 to 2015 when the partnership was in government.
Okay.
And for that, it made it an easy choice.
Easy choice for you. All right. Now, Mr. Sitcharan, the last time that I checked, with there were some 3 health centers, 3 police stations, 1 fire substation, 36 registered recreation grounds. What are some of the front? But now I know you mentioned flooding, but certainly this has to be more than just about flooding. What are some of the other front burner issues? What are you going to be working on? As an immediate in terms of infrastructural development, expanded infrastructural development, should you emerge winner come February 7th?
Of course, all of these developments, from what I'm understanding from the colleagues at the corporation, is that funding is always an issue. But to highlight some of the other issues facing the South, one, water. When we have flooding, we have too much water. When there's no flooding,
there's no water. Yeah, okay.
So we always have a water situation, a water problem in the area. So that's the start of it. The flooding situation is one, but then we have a general drainage problem. We have very poor drainage in the area, simply because the lack of funding to continue the work. So there's drains that probably would have started, but never got completed. And then some areas, because of development, more drains, of course, are needed, and then clogged drains. So drainage is a big issue. And then, of course, we have the other issue of poor roads. The roads in Penal Debe are so dilapidated now. It's a task. What will generally take you a 5 or 10 minute drive, it takes you safely 25-30 minutes just because of the potholes that you have to dodge. You mentioned recreation grounds, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because what I have noticed is that many of the recreation grounds were unkept. So, of course, I would have reached out to the persons that I know within the council.
Right.
And I was so stunned and so sad to hear what they had to tell me. It was a simple situation of the corporation had no money released to them to buy diesel. So there's the tractor parked up there, but there's no money to buy diesel to cut the grounds. And in some instances, we have some of the sports groups that use the recreation grounds. They went to the corporation and said, "Hey, I'm going to buy you some diesel. We really need the ground cut." So I think that's a sad situation. A country like Trinidad and Tobago, we have so much. We have millions and billions of dollars that passes in our budget each year, and as simple as buying $200 diesel to cut recreation ground, that's a relaxing leisure to get, especially through this COVID pandemic. A walk around the park is something that's so needed.
All right, so those are some of the things that you are seeing, some of the issues that will have to be addressed, one way or the other, should you emerge. But certainly, as you mentioned that point, Mr. Sitcharan, when I look at the National Human Development Index, giving people the choice to enjoy a long and healthy life, being educated, having access to resources that enables one to, enable one to live in dignity and being able to participate in decisions that affect their own communities. These things are said to be, core capacities for human development. How would you measure, the current level of development overall in Penal Debe in 2022? How would you measure, that level of development? Have you seen a drastic improvement, irrespective of, because we've had several administrations over the many years.
And I'm really glad that you brought that question, because Penal Debe and the Penal Debe region as a whole, and there was a number of studies that show that Penal Debe is one of the fastest growing communities in Trinidad. We have quickly grown from where we were dependent on sugarcane and rice and farming to a busy, bustling area that's full of commerce. And I would have had that conversation only yesterday, that we grew from sugarcane and rice and bull carts to malls and supermarkets. If you take a drive from the Debe Junction at the Namdefco Market all the way to Penal, the entire area is filled with business, bustling, booming businesses. So the community has really grown. The standard of life in the area has grown quite a bit. So, it's just those facilities where government and local government, like recreation grounds and parks, and, to add that little extra to life is really what's needed and lacking.
All right. I have to ask you this question too, Mr. Sitcharan. And before I ask you that question, we want to just remind our listeners and our viewers that this is the Citizens Community Forum. I'm Stephen Cummings. I'm talking with Mr. Sitcharan of the United National Congress, a representative for Penal, Debe South in the February 7th by-election. Mr. Sitcharan, I have to ask you this question. Whenever we talk about election, there's always this issue about safe seats, considering the electoral and political history of Debe South. Do you see Debe South as a safe seat for the UNC?
Debe South is a fortress of the UNC.
I had to put you on the spot, yes.
Debe South is the heart of the heartland. Based on what I would have heard, I think the competition is between me and me alone. I don't think anybody has a chance.
All right.
Debe is surely a safe seat, but the people of Debe, they're not want to just sit back and relax. They want to exercise their democratic right. And you're talking about the feeling of the ground. I'm actually, before we set up for this meeting today, I was on a walkabout, and so many persons reached out and said, hey, had I known you were walking, I would have joined you. I really want to come out. And that's a sign of something amazing, because I would have been in walkabouts for general election, local government elections before, and that type of that type of reaction is something that you hardly ever get. People actually wanting to come and support a campaign, and something as simple as a by-election where the voter turnout is usually very low. I think the ground is hot and it's heating up, and as a part of the UNC, what our aim is to really start that vibration right here in Debe South, and that same movement is going to go across the country.
Well, I know your political leader has been talking about an October revolution, which continues, I suppose from last year into 2022 and beyond.
October, then the People's Revolution.
Yeah.
Really catch on quickly.
Yes, the People's Revolution. Okay. Thank you for correcting me. But, we've heard the cries as well, Mr. Sitcharan, many times about a broken electoral and political system, perhaps inherited, Westminster style. If one is to reference, for example, the length of time it took to have a representative for Debe South following the death of the previous councillor, do you feel that there is now a need for another look at how we are governed and the very foundation on which the Representation of the People Act is perched?
I want to 100% agree with that. Local government reform is something that's always dangled as a carrot in front of us, but we are not seeing anything coming out of it. And you're so very right. It took almost 1 year before this election could have been called, and it was only called because the political leader started a legal process. There was a pre-action protocol letter that was done, and that would have forced the government to call this election. And had that not been done, it would have simply be the 7,000 plus persons of Debe South not having a voice at the local government level. So surely we need to have some adjustments when it comes to the laws that governs us in that regard.
Because from time to time I've been reading and I've been hearing, and you're looking at the comments that not just from the United National Congress, from other parties, there have always been that concern about whether we need to have a second look at the system. We have inherited, as I said, for so many decades, Westminster style. We have had this two-party system, and even the issue of proportional representation. From time to time, you hear the comments.
It is. It's something that's interestingly. When the partnership was in government 2015, they took it upon themselves at that point in time to bring the only sort of review we had to local government, and that's the proportional representation part of it that changed the alderman selection process.
Yes.
Of course, since then, this is going to be 7 years into this current administration, and local government came up every single year that local government election was due, and still
nothing has changed. All right. Well, I've also been hearing the wider discussion as well, Mr. Citron, about constitutional reform, but we're not going to get into that at this time. Probably we can discuss that in another program.
I agree.
But what do you think? I mean, we've been talking about flooding. We've been talking about some infrastructural things that needs to be done. Improvement in Penal, Debe South. But what do you really think could be among the key considerations in the minds of voters in this by-election? Could it be that people are going to vote simply on the basis of economic performance, how well campaign promises were kept, or even yet the management of the fallout of the pandemic, as you've referenced? What do you see will be some of those key areas in the minds of people going into this by-election on the 7th?
Based on the feedback on the ground, I could safely say it's a mixture of all of it. A lot of persons are dissatisfied with the state that the country is in right now, and they see the election as a way of, standing up and, saying that they disagree with that. So that's a big driving factor to this election. The other parts of it is simply they feel so stagnated. They feel so stagnated by everything that's not happening. I mean, the COVID situation is one, but even before that, there was so little happening, especially in the areas of the Penal Debe region, where we feel like we are, the term that's been coined recently would be geographic discrimination. We feel discriminated in the way that we are treated. And that as well is a big driving factor in this election.
All right. And we are talking with Mr. Sunil Sicharan. He's the representative for the United National Congress in the Debe South, February 7th by-election. And our topic this evening, by-election, focus on Debe South. Mr. Sicharan, we are almost towards the end of the interview, but I wanted to, just to get a couple of questions in. Come February 7th, you would have gotten the mandate to in that way to push forward some of the plans and so what would be in terms of a timeline for some of the things that you've mentioned. Now, I know that you mentioned flooding. Do you have like a timeline for which you would like to see these things come to fruition? Bearing in mind that I know that there's always been the issue of funding, because it appears as though funding sometimes appear at the center of all the things and plans that you would have, or any representative would have. What are some of those timelines that we're looking at in terms of getting some of the immediate things off the ground?
I'm not going to be a very unrealistic person. I prefer to be very real. I know the corporation is staff. I know funding is an issue. However, my getting into office is going to be simply to start that process of lobbying for the things that has to get done. If it is that doesn't start, then there's no way to get it done. So starting that process, I think, is most important. Of course, there are suggestions and there are remedies that I think could help a lot in the area.
Yes.
One into flooding, two into drainage. And I mean, there's a few other things that I have in mind in terms of building the area economically. Debe is rich in culture. We have so much to offer. Trinidad is a tourist destination.
Yes.
Yet we find ourselves very limited in what we offer tourism-wise. I mean, I love Carnival. I love to be a part of it. But we have so much more that we can do. Yes, Carnival, yes, culture. And I mean, Debe doubles as a highlight. It's a cuisine that people come for. But even a little more than just the cuisine, we have arts, we have culture, we have traditions that we can share and people would love to be a part of. So those are things that I want to look at, showcasing where we attract people to Debe, not just local, but even internationals, to help build that the growth of Trinidad and Tobago and the tourism product that we can.
Right, and in addition to tourism, I know that when you look at Debe South, as a constituency, Penal, Debe South as a constituency, and you mentioned the sugar cane and what have you. You have a history in agriculture, and that seems to be in focus again in 2022. Is there anything specifically that you have for the agricultural sector, developing the agricultural sector in Debe South, should you emerge winner on February?
That's actually a huge sector that has to have some sort of intervention. Perennial larceny is a big deal within the area. We have farmers growing crops, but stealing crops is something, and not just crops, even livestock. There were met persons who lose cows and goats and pigs. So larceny is a big deal. The infrastructure work to get into some of these agricultural areas has been so poor. So that's another sector that needs addressing, together with the lighting in those areas. I think it seems that because it's an agriculture area and there are very limited houses there, there's no need for street lights. But of course, that now makes it a safe haven for larceny. So those are some of the issues that we want to look at addressing as well.
Right, because I thought it was important to mention that because of the history of that particular constituency. But Mr. Citran, we are almost towards the end of the program, and I want to give the last few minutes to you for some closing remarks, a message for your constituents, and by extension Trinidad and Tobago, because as you serve the constituency, you also serve Trinidad and Tobago. Some closing remarks.
Thank you so much for that opportunity. One, I want to thank the viewers who are locked on and I'm listening to this message. The people in Debe South have gotten this opportunity to get back a voice at the local government level. And to the people of Debe South that's locked on, I want to ask for your support. I'm one of you. I understand the issues and I want to help. So I'm appealing to the residents of Debe South to come out on February 7th, come out in your numbers and vote for the United National Congress, vote for Kimra Citran, vote for growth, vote for making a better community for all of us. My slogan for this campaign is Together We Can, and I believe together we can grow Debe South, we can develop, and we can go beyond where we are today.
All right, Mr. Kamaraj Sunil Citran. Mr. Citran, thank you so much for talking with us on the Citizens Community Forum.
It was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And all the best to you on the 7th. So Sunil Citran there, the representative of the United National Congress in the Penal Debe South by-election come February 7th. Well, that's it for this segment. As I said, we will be monitoring and covering all that's happening, that will be happening throughout the season for the by-election on the 7th of February, the Penal Debe South by-election. And we have three parties that are contesting: the PEP, the UNC, and the People's National Movement. We will be talking with all these candidates throughout the season. So we want to, again, it has been a pleasure talking with our guests and our candidates in this in this instant. And of course, I'm Stephen Cummings. This is the Citizens Community Forum, and we will have another opportunity again to talk with another candidate before the February 7th. So we take a short break now and come right back.
Prime Minister, good evening to you and welcome to the Citizens Community Forum.
Good evening, my brother, and all your viewers, listeners. Happy to be here with you.
Mr. Cummings, I think Trinidad has to be proud of this city and oversight.
Mr. Cummings, you were asking about our operational, you were asking was it from an operational standpoint?
First of all, good evening, Stephen. Thank you very much for having me on your program. A very good evening to all of your listeners.
Every Wednesday, join our one-hour current affairs program, the Citizens Community Forum. Topics are wide-ranging and echoes opinions and voices of our society. Whether it be leadership, governance, health, crime, politics, or social issues, we can all have a civil and constructive discussion inside the Citizens Community Forum every Wednesday from 8 to 9 p.m. on Isaac 98.1 FM with Stephen Cummings.
Last week when I heard that there were 16 children sleeping in the cell in a police station, that was something that was unacceptable to me.
The current constitution of the Public Services Association, there have been concerns about how the constitution...
If you are restructuring the PSA, the only way you can restructure the PSA itself is through constitutional reform.
If the minister does not accede to our request and revalidate this license, we'll have to be heading to court.
Every Wednesday, 8 to 9 p.m., the Citizens Community Forum. Your host, Stephen Cummings.
Welcome back. I'm Stephen Cummings. We put the spotlight on a third and final candidate for the February 7th, 2022 local government by-election in Penal, Debe South. Unlike the other two political parties who are contesting, the PP, the People's Empowerment Party, declined from having a sit-down discussion with us. However, we were able to pull back some brief comments from its Debe South candidate Lorenzo Rodney-Sami as he spoke on nomination day, January 17th, with the media on his intended plans for the Debe South constituency. This short clip courtesy Trinidad and Tobago Television, TTT.
The issues I would like to see addressed is the healthcare system. We would like to sort that out first. Then we would like to be able to provide jobs for our young people, proper education, ready education level and standard in Debe.
The PP's Debe South local government by-election candidate there, Lorenzo Rodney-Sami. We also thought it was interesting to hear briefly from the PP's political leader, Philip Alexander. This was one of his postings on his Facebook page.
We're talking about history in the making, the Progressive Empowerment Party and its candidate. Please share the video. Lorenzo Rodney-Sami, who made a great showing this morning at his nomination. And what was seen today was clear for everybody to see is the two established parties treating it like business as usual, and the Progressive Empowerment Party treating that seat, that council seat, as if it was the most important thing right now. And that is why we made such a big and good showing today, to let you know, to let the candidate know, to let the voters know that we are very serious about winning this election. And the reason why the Progressive Empowerment Party deserves to win this election more than any other party is because of that. It's because to us, this is not business as usual. To us, this is an opportunity to show what we're capable of.
The PP's political leader there, Philip Alexander, as said, the PP's, the People's Empowerment Party declined from having an extended sit-down discussion with us. But what really is the PEP? A party with a brief 5-year history. It contested the 2000 general election but received just 0.3% of the vote and failed to win a seat. The party did not contest any further national elections but the party did run in Tobago in 2001, the Tobago House of Assembly elections. It won 7.1% of the vote but again failed to win a seat. The party remains alive but has not had any significant activity in elections since 2001. Now, in 2022, it is again testing its political stock in the Penal Debe South electoral district. With an electorate or constituency population of 7,124, with no independent candidates vying for the seat, we wait post February 7th as to who will emerge winner, although there might be a view that the political scale may weigh heavily in favor of voting traditions in which the UNC has historically enjoyed in the Penal Debe South electoral district. But we'll only know post February 7th. I'm Stephen Cummings. This is the Citizens Community Forum. See you next Wednesday. It was a famous poet who once said, "They came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. And then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me." Words there from famous poet Martin Niemöller, 1892 to 1984.